Palestinians in the Chicago area celebrated with joy as fireworks lit up the sky on Wednesday night after Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire, ending the 15-month war. According to Associated Press, the United States, Egypt and Qatar have mediated the long-running efforts to halt the fighting in the ravaged Palestinian territory, often coming close to a deal before a frustrating breakdown in negotiations. The Israel Hamas-war has killed more than 46,000 Palestinians in Gaza, according to health authorities there. The health ministry does not distinguish between fighters and civilians, but says women and children make up more than half the fatalities. Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza began on October 7, 2023, when militants stormed into southern Israel and killed about 1,200 people and abducted around 250. A third of the 100 hostages still held in Gaza are believed to be dead.
Просим обменять нас на бойцов 12-й бригады специального назначения «Азов». Просим обменять нас на бойцов 12-й бригады специального назначения «Азов».
Ukrainian military and civilian prisoners of war arrived back on home soil Wednesday, after Russia and Ukraine exchanged 25 prisoners each under the latest swap brokered by the United Arab Emirates, according to Associated Press. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed the swap on his Telegram account. "We will not stop until we get all of our people back," he said. Among the returning prisoners of war are the defenders of Mariupol and Azovstal, Zelensky added.
Russia is using foreigners, lured or tricked into fighting in Ukraine, while the Kremlin is spreading a narrative that it is leading a broad coalition of countries fighting in Ukraine against American imperialism. Politico writes, the publication notes that due to heavy losses at the front, Russia is trying to actively attract foreigners to its army. Although it has had some success in this, it is barely enough to plug some holes. However, foreigners do not give a decisive impetus in favor of Russia in this war. At the same time, the fate of the mercenaries is rather sad. As the Cuban Jog said, he was promised a huge salary by Cuban standards and a Russian passport if he signed a one-year contract with the Russian army. For Cubans, many of whom perceive their country as an open-air prison, the promise of a second passport was perhaps the main temptation. However, the Russian promises, as always, turned out to be a deception. Now they tell us that since we are Russian citizens, we must continue to fight until the end of the war, said Jog, who is now in the Kursk region. None of the Cuban mercenaries interviewed by Politico cited ideological motives as a reason to join the Russian army. Many claimed that they were hired for work that had nothing to do with the war at all, for example, construction. At least that's what they promised, and those who consciously joined the army believed that it would really be a one-year contract. They are using citizenship to tie us down. It looks like blackmail to me, said Cuban mercenary David, whose contract ended last summer. The Cubans also complained that the commanders took away their Cuban documents and their brand new Russian passports. Some were never given them at all. As Politico notes, while many Cubans said they were being used in rear positions to dig trenches and fortifications in Russian-occupied areas of eastern Ukraine, others were deployed on the front lines of the offensive, particularly in Kursk. As media wrote, the most famous group of foreigners participating in Russia's war of conquest against Ukraine are North Koreans. Recently, 2 of them were captured by Ukrainians, where they said they were being taken to training exercises, but suddenly found themselves at war. But the Russian army does not only employ mercenaries from the poorest countries in the world, there are also citizens of fairly rich countries. We recently reported how an Italian citizen was captured by the Ukrainian armed forces.